What's up, everybody? Welcome to Own the Chaos. My name is Brad. That is Fat Man Zoom. And today we have a very special show. But the stock market is crazy and chaotic. This is Own the Chaos. And we made it our mission to help you guys own it. And today's a little bit of a different topic, Fat Man.
We're switching it up, baby.
Yeah.
We're switching it up. We got a special guest in the house. We've teased this for some time, but the day has come.
Yes.
We got our buddy Andrew in the house. If you guys know Freddie Valois, he has a podcast, and Andrew's been on it twice. This is where we heard it. And we have been searching far and wide for a friend, someone we know who can just have conversations with us. So I'm going to preface this by saying none of us are experts. This is not financial advice.
Yep.
We're just a few people discussing things we feel comfortable with and we're passionate about. And Andrew, we brought on to discuss more cryptocurrency. So welcome, Andrew. Why don't you give the Chaos crew a little bit of a blurb of how you got into crypto and what got you excited about it?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. What's up, Chaos crew? My name is Andrew, and I have been in crypto since about 2013 timeframe. I've always been involved with technology. My career centers around it, especially in the cybersecurity realm. So I've been involved with crypto for quite some time now. I've seen its trajectory, its ups and downs, its continued ups and downs. And what got me interested in it was just the fact of bringing the concept of the internet to finance, bringing decentralization to finance. So that's kind of, the short and sweet of it. It can get a lot deeper than that, but I figured we'll get into that. So.
Yeah, as we're having conversations, I'm like, oh man, here's another way we can take it. We're going to talk today about viability, because that's a big question that Brad and I have had, and valuation, determining how can we value crypto. Specifically, we'll be talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yep. So for those of you guys who are familiar with the channel, you already know I am really bullish on Ethereum. I have a little bit of Bitcoin. Brad has not yet made that leap, but he is close. Yes. Pretty close, right?
Yeah. So I've already have the app downloaded. I have money sitting in there ready to go. So, but I still have yet to really pull the trigger.
Need an extra nudge. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. So trying to figure out where to even go, because the more that it seems to me, Andrew, the more that I dig into it, the more confused I get. It seems like, at least that's the experience that I have at this point.
So no, I can definitely see that, and this is why I am very adamant that I'm not an expert, and I'm not quite sure a crypto expert exists out there, to be honest. If we're going by the true textbook definition, if you're talking to these guys like Vitalik Buterin, who created Ethereum, he probably would even tell you he's not an expert at this, and he created it. So valuation, viability, those are the topics for anything, not just crypto. The best thing I can say is, you guys like the internet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what makes the internet great? It's a free exchange of information.
Right.
Nobody's controlling it, at least not as of now. There might be some folks that view that differently, or there might be more control on the horizon, but it's decentralized. If something is valuable, it floats to the top, regardless of what medium you're in, and you know about it, hence going viral. So you take that same concept and apply it to finance. That's where I think crypto gets its value from. And you're talking about something that's borderless, edgeless, on 24/7, 365. It's not waiting on a bell to start things, and anybody can get involved. Living where we are today, that might sound like a given or not a big deal. But if you're living in countries where getting a bank account is not easy, getting access to certain types of technology so that you can spend money, so you can interact, that's a given here in the Western world. That is not the case everywhere else. And that's where I think crypto comes in. You also have the philosophical side. Money right now is heavily centralized. You guys know the percentages of how many people in the world own all the money. I know there's a lot of memes out there. Accuracy, I don't know, but we all know that it's heavily centralized, it's heavily regulated, and that cuts a lot of people out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened before the internet. If you wanted knowledge, you had to go through some very rigid barriers to obtain that knowledge, now that's open. Now the internet was a great equalizer for knowledge. I think crypto will be an equalizer for finance.
Bro, I love that, the way you break that down, and it's very interesting, especially when you correlate it to the internet. My struggle has always been, and I need to preface this by saying, one of the big things we talk about with investments, for me personally, is there's always a bull and a bear case. And if you can't find one of them, then you haven't tried hard enough. And my issue with crypto, people that are passionate about crypto, people that are really passionate about memes as well, is they typically only present the bull argument. And one of the reasons why I was drawn to your podcast with Freddie, and guys, go in the description. We're going to put both episodes of the Fred Talk in there. It's really good, especially if you want a primer and learn the basics. But one of the things you did was you talked about both sides, and it frustrates me when people only tell me that, you know, it's sunshine and rainbows. But for me, this is the one thing, Andrew, that I've struggled with, is the government has always found a way to get their cut.
Yep.
And you can tell me that this is, you know, like a true free market, and this is something that can't be regulated. But I just feel like, and we just had that experience with the hackers, where the government actually got access to the wallet and got money back from the ransom, right? The pipeline, was that what it was?
Yeah.
And so my thing is, like, the government's going to get their cut, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Especially the government as we see it today. If you go buy something with your crypto, you're going to probably pay sales tax on it. So they're going to get their cut in that regard. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about crypto is it's going to make you anonymous. Anonymity and privacy are actually different. I know people like to combine those two, but they're actually different. Actually, if you really want to go under the radar and buy things, it's cold hard cash is still the best way to do it. There's no replication, or there's no replacement of that. You know, if I go hand somebody a suitcase of cash, there's no record of that. There is a record of every transaction that ever occurs on the Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains. Now, it doesn't reveal who initially. That's where the privacy aspect comes in. But if someone's, you know, going to go buy something terrible like a nuclear weapon or something like that, that transaction is there. And if you are savvy enough, you can correlate different types of events and figure out who it is. But it's not as clear as day as person X just bought this. And that's where the privacy aspect comes in. Where are there maybe some pitfalls, like you said, with some downsides? I'd say the technology literacy of society is still not very high, which is a little, it seems a little contradictory, because we're a society that completely relies on technology and science to a greater degree. Yeah. But it's very packaged and commoditized, so folks don't feel the need to really understand what's going on. And, you know, I don't want to take it too much into this realm, but the whole term of tech overlords, where did that come? Well, you've got a group of people that understand technology better than most, and now they're able to harness that and basically control how the world does things. You know, technology actually has made things more centralized in some ways. And so the bear case here is, if folks don't understand technology, crypto is going to be hard to adopt. Yeah. Now, there are folks working to make it more intuitive. When the internet first came out, it was not intuitive. People had no idea about computers, let alone networking and systems like that. But that's where the bear case is. And, you know, you are fully responsible for it. You know, people like throwing around the idea of I'm my own bank, and you are in a sense with crypto, but there's a lot of pitfalls to that, right? Yeah. It sounds good, but you are fully responsible for it. If you are negligent, if you lose it, if you unfortunately pass away and you don't have a succession plan, those coins are more than likely lost forever. And if you've been scammed or hacked, they're also lost forever in that regard. Some of these exchanges like Coinbase and Binance, they have some alleviation for that. but it's still up to you at the end of the day. And are you going to circumvent the government here? No, you're not.
Right.
But this is a step towards privacy, and this is a step towards cutting out a middleman. There are a lot of zealots and people that say, "Oh, this is the way, no matter what." I would say I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think there needs to be a series of conversions that need to happen for me to go buy a bottle of wine in Argentina at 3 a.m. Why do we need to have this friction to do that?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think there. So
there was like so many things that I could unpack here. One of them was that you had mentioned earlier that crypto is borderless, and I wanted to touch on that real quick because we are seeing some governments, ban Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I believe is India recently, right? And
they actually did a 180 on that because they went to their Supreme Court. And their Supreme Court shot it down. So now India has actually done a 180 and they're embracing crypto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that
it's fluid though? It's fluid.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Do you think that there's a point in which we see a complete ban from, and obviously China always comes in the conversation there as well, and even internet has its limitations in something in a place like China and other areas like China. Do you think that we could, just like in your experience, that we could see something where there is an indefinite border where it just isn't accepted or can't even be bought or stored? Or do you think that there's just going to be underground areas like there, I guess, always is when it comes to, even just like illegal stuff like weapons and that sort of thing? It seems as if they're always going to find a way. But do you think that that's one struggle or one pitfall that could come for something like crypto?
I think the biggest pitfall is lack of awareness and education. Someone can go make a decree right now, crypto is banned. They're not going to get very far.
Yeah.
The toothpaste is kind of already out of the tube.
Right.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of like coming and confiscating people's guns. I don't foresee that day happening. It's very hard to accomplish. And what do you really accomplish out of that?
Right.
Can a country ban it? Absolutely. I think it'll be to their detriment, but they can absolutely ban it, and they can make it hard to transact with it. But the beauty of this here is if you truly understand it and you truly take ownership of it, there's really not anything anyone can do to take it from you. Let's kind of take the concept of owning a home, owning a car. Do we really own it? If you stop paying taxes, if you stop making payments, it comes and gets confiscated.
Right.
Yep.
Or if it's eminent domain or things of that nature. So, that this concept is going to actually get, I think, more and more steam because in the world we're living in, it seems like true ownership is elusive.
Yeah, that's a good point. You talked about that actually. I'm glad you brought that up. It's the idea of ownership with contingencies, and I can buy that. My question for you is, when you talk about, actually, I want to know like Ethereum and Bitcoin. Let's just talk about these specifically. So, I'll tell you sort of why I got into Ethereum and sort of my thought process, and feel free to poke holes in this or something I'm off with, but
Sure.
On a very basic level, the argument for Bitcoin that I'd always heard, or the case for Bitcoin, was the store of value. And some people would say that it was their alternative to gold and the store of value idea and the scarcity model. All right, there's only so many coins that are able to be mined, and there's an end date. So I want to get more into that in the valuation piece, but really it's, when I looked at Bitcoin, it was like, okay, it's because we all agreed that this is a model,
yeah,
right? Like this is a cool model, a good model, and I can understand that. But I worry about the next guy saying, hey, the same thing, right? So I worry about that. Ethereum, I like the idea that there was use cases for it. And like you said about the middleman, essentially when you look at Ethereum, I felt like, okay, I can see how Ethereum would actually work in my life. And so for that, I'm just big on, I'd rather have something that is functional and that's useful, rather than, all right, I just want to play hype or supply demand. Like, yes, that could work, but I fear that that's reliant on too many other people.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and say I'm a fan of both. I actually view them as completely different items. So we'll start with Bitcoin here. So what's the benefit of Bitcoin? And there's a lot of intangibles that I think Bitcoin enjoys that no other cryptocurrency will ever be able to enjoy. First and foremost, it was first.
Right.
I know that's a big part of YouTube, but being first out the gate has a lot of advantages here. It was the first one in everyone's mouth. It's the first one that is widely recognized. Second, the creator is anonymous. And I actually think that has a lot of benefits. It's politically, theologically, agnostic. It can't be swayed because such and such is at the head of it, and they feel that we need to be doing renewable energy. So it can truly take shape. I wanted to comment on what you said. Well, we all kind of agreed this is what it is. Isn't that the same thing with fiat? I mean, we all think a dollar is a dollar because we agreed on it, right?
Yeah.
It's not backed by anything anymore. It's being printed endlessly now.
Yeah.
And that's a different conversation for a different day. But, the model works just by the fact of what strength. I'll go back to the internet analogy a couple times here. The reason the internet is so powerful is because everyone has bought in. Every time you activate a smartphone, every time you hook up a PC, you're strengthening the internet by doing that. You don't know it, but you are doing it. Every time you join the Bitcoin network, it's being strengthened just by virtue of that. You've got, I don't know what the numbers are now, but I read the other day that there are over 30 million people in the US that now own crypto. Now that number is even larger worldwide. Inherently, that is a network, and inherently that has value. So that's kind of what I think with that. Bitcoin is based on a consensus mechanism called proof of work. And that's kind of getting into some technical stuff. I don't know if we want to get into it here, but it's where the consensus is drawn by how many PCs are in the network. And these PCs are incentivized, or these machines are incentivized to strengthen the network by transaction fees. And they're also mining within the network, solving the Bitcoin algorithm to release more Bitcoin. Yes, there's a finite amount, but that's to me, that's a plus, because right now everything is, endless, bottomless. So it's deflationary, and it's got micro transaction level capability. So everyone wants to think about it as I need to own one coin. That is not even remotely true, and actually defeats a lot of the purpose of crypto, if you think about it in that sense.
Why is that?
Because the coin was just made, or the concept of a coin was just made to give you something to conceptualize.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But you can have 1/10 of a Bitcoin. I mean, it goes very, very small. So do
you think that, just going back to your analogy with the internet and how that, plays out, the more of us that are in it, the stronger it gets. Do you think that could be why it wouldn't, I don't want to say impossible, but highly unlikely that an entire government or an entire entity could buy up the rest of Bitcoin, essentially? Like, do you think that's not even
exactly why?
Okay.
That's exactly why. So crypto actually is the first thing that Main Street got in before Wall Street.
Right.
And you can call it the elites, the governments, whoever. I think they slept on it, and even the internet can't even claim that. A lot of corporations got in on the internet, hence the internet bubble and all of that.
Right.
So that, to me, already put it out the gate pretty far. And to reverse that is going to be next to impossible, in my opinion. Now, Where maybe the downside is if someone figures out there's a flaw in the source code, there's a way to double spend, duplicate, not make things immutable, then people will lose trust, and that's the way it will move away. But the concept of blockchain is here to stay.
That's the crazy thing, is the trust. To me, it's incredible, the level of trust.
Yeah.
Especially, initially the to me, when I thought about anonymity as far as the founder of crypto or Bitcoin, I did view that as a negative. But as you explained it, I believe you explained it in FredTalk, I was like, wow, that does make sense. Because when you identify one person as like the leader or the founder, there could be
person,
that could be problematic. So that was a good point. The one question before we get into valuation, because it is important to discuss that.
Yeah.
Well, two. One is you brought up sort of Main Street versus Wall Street, and it's more of a comment. We've talked about this. I think my concerns about viability of crypto and specifically Bitcoin have come down substantially now that institutions are involved, and it's almost like now it's like expected. These institutions are coming along as you have. We've talked about Square. We've talked about Tesla, substantial investments. Arc now. Arc is about to have a Bitcoin ETF. All these things. I believe multinational corporations and these companies, I believe they run the world. Like, it's not politicians. So the fact that institutions are in it, I think that, Brad, kind of sort of quells my fears about it going anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Mm-hmm.
That institutions are involved. That's going to naturally spur on more regulation. And I'm not against regulation here by any means. I think in some regards it's needed, not only to protect the consumer or to protect the individual, but really just to protect the country as a whole. But if you look at our banking system now, and I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not throwing shade here. This is just my own observation. The banking system and the way it operates has not changed in a long time.
Right.
The front end looks like it's changed because we've got apps and all these other things, but the way things are happening has not changed a whole lot. A lot of people say a bank is just a travel agent for your money. And there is a case to be made for that because all they're doing is facilitating the travel of your money so that it can be done. Do we need a middleman for that? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Yes, there is benefit in that, but it comes at an enormous cost, and it comes at an enormous sense of mischief too, right? Because folks don't know what's happening with money half the time. There are pallets of money going missing, especially at times of war. I mean, if humans are involved, it's going to inherently be flawed. Right. This is not just a banking issue. This is a human issue, right?
Yeah.
So if you take the human piece out of it, and that's what crypto aims to do. You mentioned the word trust. That's a big piece of this all. What crypto aims to provide is validation without trust. And that's a big concept. I'll touch on a little bit Ethereum because you didn't mention that. Big fan of Ethereum. I think what Ethereum's trying to do is actually develop an ecosystem, not just a currency.
Yeah.
Currency is just one use case that Ethereum is looking to solve. It's also looking to get in the realm of smart contracts, real estate, transition of ownership, and it's looking to get involved with voting. I think voting is a big use case that blockchain as a whole can solve. It's already being attempted to be solved with a currency called Cardano, who was another founder of Ethereum. Yeah, we can touch on that some other time. Ethereum though has a few challenges right now in front of it, and I don't view a challenge as negative. Challenge can be an opportunity just as much as a deficiency. It has to find a way to conduct its network without these insane fees. Right now, if you want to send money or currency over Ethereum, you're getting hit with a lot of fees, and there's also a lot of congestion. That, in a way, is also a good thing because it means it's getting used.
Yeah.
So it's easy to view that as negative, but it actually means it's getting used. Ethereum is also looking at making a change from proof of work to proof of stake. That's another consensus mechanism that isn't resource or labor intensive. It also is more environmental friendly in some regards. I know that's a big item with proof of work Bitcoin based cryptocurrencies.
Can you explain proof of stake real quick?
Yeah, so proof of stake is a consensus mechanism where the owners of coins stake those coins or offer those coins up to the network so that transactions can be validated. What it's showing is that this network has viability, this network has usage, and the way it's making consensus on these transactions is by staked coins. And this is a contrast to something like Bitcoin, where its benefit is from how many machines are trying to solve the algorithm. Now, there is a lot more deeper concepts involved. Some say proof of stake makes it more favorable to be centralized, or more of a candidate to be centralized, because the people that own the most coins can also generate the most coins. So the incentive for proof of stake is if you stake your coins or give them on loan to the network, that's probably the best way to conceptualize it. Your incentive for that is you make back coins, kind of like in an interest or a dividend model.
Yeah.
But obviously the people with the most amount of coins are going to benefit the most. And that's kind of going back to where we're at today, right? And then there's also the belief that, if someone accumulates enough coins, can they dictate the destiny of that network? There are pros and cons, and believers and non-believers both ways. I think multiple consensus mechanisms. There's actually a third one now. It's called proof of history. Currency called Solana is offering that. I think these consensus mechanisms are good because it keeps the variation in play. So,
moving into the valuation piece of this, and then general question for you. You obviously said early on that you own crypto. If you don't mind me asking, do you own any other equities?
Yeah, so I do traditional margin investing as well.
Okay.
Have always done it. Got in on Tesla, Sirius XM during a tank. Obviously have the traditional 401k and all that set up. So yes, I am in that. I can tell you I'm not as excited about those things, but I am in them, and I think they need to be a part of every portfolio. I'm not a part of. I know there's a lot of people that said, cash out your 401k and throw it all in crypto. I'm not one of those guys. So.
Yeah, we actually had this conversation about Anthony Pompliano, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with. He has 90% of his assets are in cryptocurrency, and 10% is in other assets like real estate and that sort of thing. And we thought that was just crazy, and it's, I guess, refreshing to know that like somebody who's at least been involved in crypto for a period of time like yourself also understands that it's important for some sort of diversification as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And consistency and discipline, right?
Yeah,
those are the key things. I know you guys preach that a lot here with the Chaos Crew. That's the path to freedom. Ultimately, they're, putting all your eggs in one basket and, hoping for the best. That's a surefire way of not getting the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and you've kind of alluded to this, and one thing I'm thinking about with, thinking about stocks in particular, we talk about diversification of stocks and just making sure that your allocation's proper, even within your portfolio for stocks. What you alluded to, correct me if I'm wrong, is like the world could look in the future similarly crypto as it is stocks. And even it could now, but I think more so in the future of you could have a portfolio of crypto, and maybe you should have a portfolio in crypto and not just bank on Bitcoin, not just bank on Ethereum, but say, hey, there's going to be crypto and they're not all going to compete against each other. There's going to be altcoins that have different use cases and different purposes. And potentially the consideration could be, all right, how is my crypto portfolio allocated, and how is it diversified? Is that fair to say?
How much ass coin do you have?
No. What you're saying is spot on. There isn't going to be one coin to rule them all. There's a lot of Bitcoin maximalists, as you call that. They'll say, oh, every other coin is a waste of time.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not true in my view. There are many use cases that the blockchain protocol is proposing to solve, and Bitcoin only solves one of them, from my view. When you talk about things like Ethereum, they're trying to create an ecosystem so that you can solve a lot of use cases. There is a lot of room. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, these pillar coins is what we call those first 3 or 4 are kind of what it's on at the top of everyone's list. But these next gen blockchain 3.0 coins, they also have a lot of scalability and a lot of value in terms of what they can do for society if they are understood and implemented.
So then from a valuation perspective, and going back to, there's been so many different price targets and numbers, specifically for Bitcoin. Just, it's almost, I don't want to say it's outlandish because who knows what's possible. But let's say Bitcoin's at 35K as of this recording, and Ethereum's, I think, coming up back on 2,500.
2,500,
And so just Bitcoin, for example, because that's sort of the fun one that people like to throw price targets out. Not necessarily what the price target is, but how would you personally go about valuing Bitcoin and determining if it's, we talk about on our channel, we're looking for opportunities that are on discount, and where we think it's the value, the current price isn't what we perceive the value as being. So those are opportunities. How do you value Bitcoin particularly?
Yeah. So maybe before I answer that, with the Chaos Crew, I mean, I get the feeling you guys preach long-term disciplined investing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, we do some short-term like trades and stuff like that, but it's very rarely a day trade, and any of the shorter-term swings are usually a quarter at a time.
Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, I think with crypto especially, you need to have strong hands and a strong stomach.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of valleys and a lot of peaks. Now, where does Bitcoin get valued? I know I get asked that a lot. To be honest with you, I try to stay out of the valuation game, but I will say this: in my view, it is severely undervalued, and it is also just the very beginning. Now, there's a lot of pros with that. I think a lot of people think, "Oh, I've missed the boat," or what have you. I don't think any boat has been missed with crypto. It's still very early. You walk down the street now, people have heard of it, but how many people own it? How many people understand it?
Right.
It's very few. It's still very early. I think it's Ethereum, same thing. I think Ethereum is vastly undervalued. I think Ethereum is going to be probably, looking at double digit, 10K range, I would say in the next 2 years, easy. Now that's assuming that they get their house in order. They've got a lot of stuff to work through. I'm confident they will, though. They've got the best devs in the world. I personally know developers in Raleigh with Consensus. Raleigh's quickly becoming a kind of a Silicon Valley junior, but also a crypto hub. These are some very talented developers that could be making lots of money doing other things, and they've decided to go in on crypto, both for philosophical reasons, but also because they feel this is where everything is headed. This is where it's going to have the most value.
Right.
That's another thing to look for with these coins that are coming out. What is the development power, the development capital behind it? I think early on, Christian, you touched on, there's a lot of hype going on. There absolutely is. But, once you start wading through that and seeing what are some of the technicals and the fundamentals, there isn't a whole lot of coins, which tells me that there's still a lot of room here.
What was crazy is you brought up that number 30 million in the U.S. as far as Bitcoin holders. And That to me kind of seemed low when you think about the U.S. population. Now, all population is over 300 million, so you're talking about 10%. And one of the arguments that I would make, and that's I feel like has been made, that I do agree with, that compels me, is you think of the world population is over 7 billion.
Right.
And how many of them, like, you think about the New York Stock Exchange, first of all, you're limited by hours. But there's certain companies in there, and there's access might not be there, which Andrew, you alluded to earlier, right? And so that's one of those things where it's like the bull case, and that's very fair to think, okay, what is the opportunity when you truly have a global investment? But to the point of valuation, I'm glad you brought that up, just about it is futile to, I mean, what is Apple going to be a year from now, 10 years from now?
Right.
I don't know what Apple's going to be 10 years from now, and quite frankly, I don't care. But what I am confident about is I'm pretty damn sure that Apple's going to be more than it is now 10 years from now. And so, for me, we've talked about different accounts. For our Chaos Crew, they know we have a long-term investing account. We have a long-term swing trading account. We have a short-term. So we have 3 accounts, really. But this is about, for me, this is long-term investing.
Yeah.
And the tried and true method has always been dollar cost average. It's always worked. It always will work. And so, I did want to get your thoughts about the valuation, but you're right. I believe what kind of you're alluding to, which is, listen, you just got to you got to look at what the opportunity is as far as the market opportunity. And where do you believe it'll be in comparison to today? Looking forward, whatever the time horizon is, 5, 10 years. My long-term investment, I still have 30 years. So do I believe that Ethereum's going to be over Ethereum's going to be over 2,500 in 30 years? Do I think that Bitcoin's going to be over 35K? Hell yeah, it should be. And so if I dollar cost average my way to those 30 years, I should be okay.
Not only that, but I actually looked, and you can correct me if I'm wrong too, Andrew, but you look at how Bitcoin has performed since inception, and I think it's been somewhere around 200% on average per year if you average it out. And so I'm not saying that it's going to continue that trek, but it's still, I think, if you just look at the way that it's been performing over the last 12, 13 years, it's still going to outperform the market, I think. Just from the research that I've done, it seems as if that's definitely going to be a thing, as well as Ethereum.
I agree. I think the problem right now is people are trying to view tomorrow through yesterday's lens.
Yeah.
Something like crypto, there isn't really any rules. There isn't anything that we can reference back to. To me, the closest analogy is the internet, but even that doesn't do it justice. And once again, I am bullish on that based on that regard, but there is risk there in that maybe the coins we're hearing about today get supplanted. I mean, there's very much that's the game with technology, right? Technology actually accelerates disruption. I think Uber disrupted the taxi industry in under 5 years.
Yeah,
it was quick.
Right.
As technology gets better, the rate of disruption will increase, and the time for disruption will increase. Now, I don't see anything in the immediate future challenging these what I call the pillar coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, etc. But you need to be not only aware, but you need to be ready to pivot if it is. So that's where the technology game comes into play. There isn't much buffer there.
Well, here's the crazy thing, and I'm glad you brought up Uber, because I guess this is what I was trying to bring up earlier with sort of the government oversight and regulation. Is like, yeah, Uber disrupted an industry, but not without pushback, even to this day, right? You look at Uber, you look at Airbnb, you look at banks, airlines, like the government time and time again doesn't allow the invisible hand to play, right? And so Uber did it in spite of the headwinds they were facing because of the government, and that could be local government. It could be whoever that tried to save these taxis instead of allowing competition to play out. And that's probably, without going on a tangent, that was one of my frustrations with the banking crisis in 06, 07, 08 was yes, a lot of people say the banks could have were bailed out, and what could that have what could that have resulted in?
Yeah.
But by the same token, some of the best businesses end up coming up with either the best technologies or getting in better places when their back's against the wall, when they look like they're about to be knocked out, and they figure it out and they don't get bailed out. And so I'm kind of just going on a tangent right now.
Spot? Yeah.
But that's the thing is like,
well, it's just like the dot-com bubble, right? How many companies and businesses went under, and then look at things like Amazon and that sort of thing that just came out of the ashes, so to speak. Like, why can't that happen with the banks or the financial system?
And that's what's frustrating is like Uber was just such a great model. And honestly, the monopoly of the taxi industry, like it was one of those things where they just got kind of cocky, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it shifted overnight. I mean, I still remember
right.
the day that I tried Uber because I couldn't get a taxi. I was in Asheville, North Carolina. And my buddy was like, dude, just try Uber. After that day, I never looked back. I never called a taxi.
That's how
again.
I am about Airbnb.
I was just about to say that. Airbnb is the same way for me.
I mean, that's a crazy shift in market. I mean, usually there's like a little bit of a step. I don't want to buy this product anymore. It's, you give it a few more chances. It was literally overnight that I was like, this is changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one last question. I don't know if you have anything else, but on the valuation piece, one of the things I've thought about was you talked about sort of this construct of a coin and using to conceptualize, right? For context. Okay. We have $1 and we're using a coin and it's 35K per coin. Now this is kind of a construct. One thing I don't want to say I've worried about, but I've just wondered to myself, if we look at the stock world and you look at Amazon, and Amazon's share price is at $3,400, $3,500. And we've talked about on the show, Brad, if they did a stock split, that price would just go through the roof. We think the stock would just go up because of a couple reasons. One is perceived price, right? It's still the same valuation. The market cap's still the same.
Yeah.
But even though people can get fractional shares, they don't want fractional shares. They want a whole one share.
Right.
And
it's a
so
mind game, yeah.
I wonder how much, is there any legitimacy, Andrew, in my thought process when I'm like, well, I can get Ethereum for $2,500, and I think people might be more inclined to go towards Ethereum because it is $2,500. The likelihood of for Ethereum doubling 2,500 to 5,000, as opposed to Bitcoin going from 35K to 50K or going on like 50 to 100, 100% bump, 150% bump, and you're at six figures. Do you think that could potentially slow down the adoption rate, specifically not of crypto, but of like something like Bitcoin? And people might say, well, you know what? Ethereum's only $2,500 a coin. Is there any legitimacy or
there's always that psychological piece, right? Like, oh, I can get more for my money.
Yeah.
This way. That goes the same for stocks too, right?
Right.
All traditional vehicles. Do I want to buy one Tesla or do I want to buy a bunch of, Ford?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that will always be there. What I would say is look into which one of these currencies you want to get into, and then look at what use cases they're proposing to solve. I think we saw with Dogecoin, hype can bring you very far. Dogecoin is not proposing to solve any use cases. And this is not my thoughts. This is from the creator of Dogecoin.
Right.
It's like, I made it in 2 hours. It was a joke. I'm shocked it's where it's at.
Well, I mean, especially with the dilutive properties, right? Yeah.
Someone very smart hitched their wagon to it, and here we are.
Right.
That's kind of the story right there. Which one interests you? Why is this one gonna be the one to increase in value? As far as playing the numbers game, I think Brad, you mentioned Bitcoin has had some amazing returns. At the same time, it's had some amazing losses if you're in the wrong end of the spectrum there. But
right,
in terms of leapfrogging and dollar cost averaging, you probably want to go if you're in it purely for financial gain. You probably want to figure out the Ethereums and maybe even the the ones lesser than that of the world, because you're looking at accumulation there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at, what's going to be a true disruptor, I think you're gonna have to start looking at something like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Solana. Their price points are obviously higher, but there's a reason there. There's already a lot of momentum. There's a lot of capital already in there. So
awesome.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you definitely did. And it is similar to stocks and what we talk about. We could talk about this for hours, and hopefully we can have continued discussions. But Brad, let me swing this over to you as we wind down. Does this change your mind in anything? Like, do you feel more confident? Do you feel compelled?
Yeah, I think it does. And I mean, I was already on my way to like talking myself into it, but obviously, with speaking with Andrew, it for sure has. One question I had for you, Andrew, would be like, I have the Binance app and was ready to, pull the trigger on Bitcoin and probably both of them, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Is Binance probably the best in your opinion, or is there like something I should be looking at as well as far as platforms are concerned?
So I think exchanges have came a long way. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, Gemini, all these are great vehicles. If you want in terms of options, Binance is pretty high up there. Binance has a big coin offering. Kraken also. I think Binance is a great vehicle. If I was starting today, what I would probably do is I'd probably open up an account in Binance, and even Coinbase. Coinbase has the biggest name value, and I would not only do an initial buy, but I would set up reoccurring weekly buys. Okay. And then when you see it dip, I'd go in and grab it.
Right.
Principles still exist. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, buy the up and dip.
Now, if you want to take it to another step in terms of privacy, security, ownership, once you're ready and you feel your technology literacy is adequate, you can take these coins off of exchanges, because exchanges are still prone to issues.
Right.
They can be hacked.
Yep.
They can have mistakes. You yourself can get hacked. It's a lot easier to hack someone that's on an exchange than someone that's storing these locally. You've got local options. I don't know if you've heard of hardware wallets.
Yeah.
Ledger Nano, Trezor. That's kind of taking it to the next level. I actually implore people to take it to the next level, because if you truly want to understand the value proposition crypto brings to the table, you have to understand it holistically. And what they're trying to give you is true ownership. So if you keep it on exchange, that's fine. I don't have anything against that. And there's a lot of benefits to it. Your liquidity and your flexibility is a lot easier on that. But you're going back to that centralized model. A middleman has control of your assets.
Right.
Some people like that. Some people don't. You'll have to, review that yourself.
Okay.
Damn, this was awesome, man.
I loved it, man.
Guys, if you like this, make sure you like, subscribe, hit notification bell, because we have to get Andrew back on for more conversations. And let us know in the comments, what are you buying? What are your thoughts? Any feedback? Agree with us, disagree with us. Guys, throw it out there. Give us your feedback and perspective, and any other topics you want us to discuss in the future on crypto. But yeah, man, that's all I got. Andrew, we appreciate you very much, Brad.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for your time and hanging out with us. And I'm very confident the Chaos Crew is going to want you back.
Okay. No, I appreciate you guys. Fun as always. And I am open to any questions. I'm not exactly a social media all-star by any means, but I do post about crypto on Instagram. You guys feel free to follow me, AF Thale. I'll shoot it over to you guys. Feel free to post it. And I definitely would love to come back if you guys have me.
Awesome.
Absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
That's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.